What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Silent Hill 2 here on the ROG Ally X, and this game has some issues when it comes to the Ally X and the Legion Go that we're going to talk about. It's just not loading in all the graphics correctly, and I've confirmed this with a few friends as well that have the game and Legion Go's and Ally X's, and it's giving them the same problems, and a bunch of videos I'm seeing on YouTube also are showing it with the same issues. So let's get into it here and take a look. The big issue that we have here is going to be with the game loading in the shaders or the lighting or whatever properly, which we'll get into. We are going to use FSR 3 balanced in here. We're going to use custom render quality preset so that we can go in and change to a low quality here. We're not going to care that much about settings in this video, and I'm not going to get into recommended settings because I just don't think the game is running the way it's intended to yet, at least so far. And I just want to go in and look at performance this way typically and what we're getting here. So we're going to take a look at some medium real quick. We'll take a look at low, but the big issue here is, if you can't tell, it looks horrible because it's really just not loading things in properly no matter what you do. You really have to turn ray tracing on in order to get it to load the lighting and the shadows and everything in properly here, even for low settings. That's not a ray tracing thing, that's a game being broken thing. I did the Steam Deck on low, same settings, no ray tracing, it loads in perfectly fine with no problems, which you can see right here. This was Steam Deck on low with no RT, and it works on my desktop just fine as well. But on here on the Ally X or the Legion Co, this is what we get, and the whole world just is not lit up correctly. Now this happens to be medium 1080p. 1080p, at least currently, isn't really going to be that viable even on low necessarily. 900p medium might work if they fix the game, or if you're using frame generation or something like that here. And then 720p will get you up a little higher again, though. I think you would need some fixes to the game or frame gen or something. If you're really going to go all medium anyway, you'd probably have to do a mix and turn some stuff down. But if you go low for now, especially with the game being a little broken here, we actually do get a nice increase in our FPS here at 720p, and could go that route and up to 37 here, just standing still at a fairly rough to run spot here on low at 900p. So just taking a look at that. Now, if you go in and change this over to performance, you could gain 2 or 3 FPS, typically going from balance to performance on FSR 3 here, 900p low, just to give you a general idea. And then if we go back to balance 37, I'm going to leave it balanced for the video. Again, I don't want to get into too many recommended settings. I just want to give you a general idea how this is running, because this is how the game is supposed to look. Just like I showed you in the beginning at the menu, when you turn RT on, everything actually loads in the way it's supposed to, but RT on loses you 10 to 15 FPS in this game from everything I've checked out. And even though it loads in properly and looks the way it's supposed to, versus this, which is pretty rough as far as visuals, because again, it's just not loading in properly. It's not a ray tracing thing, it's not an RT thing, and I've shown this on my desktop and my Steam Deck. It's broken and not loading in properly here for the graphics. So it looks pretty rough, even though you do get much more playable performance at either 900p or 720p. But that ray tracing on fixes just all that issues with it not loading in everything properly, so that it looks better, but we do take quite a hit on performance. And indoors is horrible because there's literally no immersion. You can literally see everything in here, as to where if you switch it back on the way it's supposed to be, this is what it should look like with or without RT on low. And then on the Steam Deck, this is what we had, which looked proper with no RT or anything, all low settings. So yeah, definitely a broken issue there with Silent Hill 2 so far. Now maybe they'll have a day one patch here pretty quickly, or maybe this video will become obsolete pretty quickly. That's fine, but as of right now anyway, me trying to play this on the Legion Go or Ally X, you can see the difference here of what's happening with the game just not loading in properly unless you click on ray tracing, which then hits you for a good 10 to 15 FPS, depending on where you're at in the game and what you're doing and all that kind of thing. So you should be able to get this visual minus some of the RT shadows or lighting they have in here, and a little better performance if they get this game fixed up in a patch. I've also tried the other drivers from OEM to the side loaded on Legion Go and on the Ally X, with no difference there, and again confirmed that with a bunch of other people as well, and other videos that seem to be having the same issue. So yeah, but performance is at least playable if you have RT on, especially for the most part you're going to stay above 30 FPS. So if you want the game to look proper, turn RT on, go 720p, use some FSR, and at least get the game looking the way it should and playable. I just think having RT off with the way it's broken and not loading in things and just no lighting in the game is pretty rough. Now, in-game frame gen makes this much more playable though if you want to do this, and to do that we need to go in here and change the game file. Up here at the top, you'll see the 3 little dots. We can go in here and scroll down to our options. Once we get that opened up at the top, you're going to see General View and Search. We're going to want to click on View. And then down here, you're going to see Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. You want to make sure that's clicked on there. That way we can see all the folders that we need to get to do this. Now we're going to go into my C drive here, and we're going to go into Users. We're going to go into my username here. Should be the same for you, whatever username you have for your PC there, and where your app data is at. So there's a hidden folder, app data, local. Once we go into that, we're going to find Silent Hill 2 down here. We're going to go into its save folder, config, Windows, and then there's an engine folder right here. The engine.ini folder is what we're going to edit. So I can open up that and show you here. Go ahead and make this a little bit easier to see. And all the way down at the very bottom of this is where we're going to add in our little couple of lines of code to make our in-game frame gen come on in here. This is right here. I'll have it in the description for you as well. You could also read it off of the screen, but it has to be exactly like this or it's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this for our system settings, FSR3 in-game frame gen. Paste that at the bottom there, you can see. Once we have that in there at the bottom of our engine.ini file, we're going to go ahead and go up here to File and Save so that we keep that in there. If you don't have that just like that and get it saved, then it's not going to kick on. So once we're done that, you can close out of all this and get launched back into the game. Once we launch into the game, you see it flashing here once I launched in, and it's going to kick in-game frame gen on. We're on full screen here, and boom, you can see instead of 30 to 40 FPS here on the menu, we're sitting at 72 FPS. Now, the way this works, you don't get a frame gen option in here right now. I'm sure this will be added later on into the game, but just having FSR3 on now has frame gen on. If you want that off, you need to either delete what you did or change the =1 to an =0 in your file folder. But there you go. You can see frame gen working here. This is with RT off, so the game's not looking the way it should, but this is performance in theory with no ray tracing turned on, but that could change when they fix the game and we get all the proper lighting and shadows and everything in here for low. But if we switch over to frame gen on so that everything loads in proper with frame gen, you can see here we get some pretty good performance this way on low. We could probably even mess with some medium if we wanted to. We do get some stutters and skips here and there, which is probably why we don't have in-game frame gen unlocked yet for the game. We're probably still working on that. Maybe we'll also get FSR 3.1 and all of that. Some of these settings just need some work, and that's probably why they aren't available yet. But it certainly does make the game more playable. I hope they get a patch out soon to fix the issues, because I'd like to run this with RT off and get the game looking the way it's supposed to with RT off. Here on the Ally X, I think 900p is going to be a real sweet spot for this game. Maybe some in-between low and medium settings, but there's just stuff I don't want to get into really tweaking and figuring out yet until we get a fix for the game so it's working properly. All right, guys, I hope this at least gives you an idea of what we're looking at right now anyway at the time of this video, how the game is running here on the Ally X, and even like the Legion Go and stuff, we're having the same kind of problems. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.